All right. Well, we're back at it. If you can hear me, slap some emojis or something. Let's see if this works. If you can hear me, slap an emoji. Anybody? All right. All right. We're in business. Let's go. Good deal. Good deal. You can't stop us, Twitter. You will not stop Bitcoin. Someone give Elon the reins. Just don't let him say anything about Doge. All right. Well, we're back at it, Mike. We got you back on stage, bro. The comedy hour's over. Let's get back into this SMB adoption.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, man. Well, where did we leave off? Where was your frame of mind now that we're back in action and people can hear us?
Well, hey, so you just brought it up, you know, just now about how the Doge thing, the Elon Musk Doge thing. Like I spoke to a business the other day who the only reason he got involved in Bitcoin was because he heard about Dogecoin on SNL. And all of his employees were like, "Oh, we're all gonna be rich. Elon's talking about Dogecoin tonight on Saturday Night Live, and like it's gonna be great." And he said it was hilarious. He's like, "I have a policy that if my staff is like buying lottery tickets or buying this or that, like I go in on it too, because if they don't show up for work tomorrow, I'm sure as hell not going to show up to work tomorrow." So that's actually his first foray into the quote unquote crypto space. But eventually, he started going to Bitcoin meetups in Austin, and now his business accepts Bitcoin. So, like I was saying, like that was the business that they're doing a news article on, Three Forks, and that's how he got started. So, everything's good for Bitcoin. Let's not forget that, right?
Interesting. So Elon Musk, does he like steak?
No idea.
All
No
right.
idea. But if he does, he probably needs to go over to Three Forks. I mean, he influenced it, right? He's got to close the loop.
That's right. That's right. Well, cool. Well, yeah, one of the things I've spoken to you about before was there's a few people in my local community that wanted to accept Bitcoin or put it on their balance sheet, and they ran into issues where, for some reason, for accounting, it was complex, and their tax advisor said they need to buy it through PayPal because it's easier for accounting. Um, that's one of many issues, but what are the hurdles small businesses are trying to overcome when it comes to just embracing Bitcoin as a whole, if you could break those down?
I would say maybe the biggest hurdle is like just understanding what the hell Bitcoin is and why they should use it. Like, let's say, okay, they understand that. Um, the hurdles are educating them on the tools. So they need to find the tools. It's really, really easy for them to like go, "Oh, okay, what do I do? Like, I'm the business owner. I just download Moon Wallet and now I can accept Bitcoin." It's like, well, if you're running a business and you have employees, you're not just going to be slinging around your Moon Wallet, right? Um, so there are different tools, right? There's IBEX, there's OpenNode, there's Voltage. Run your own BTC Pay server, run your own node, right? There's all these different tools. The startup cost in a lot of these is effectively zero. The setup time can take as little as like 5 minutes, and you can be up and running. Um, so really, it's all about knowledge and awareness of these different things. And really, I think the Bitcoin community has a lot of work to do in like making sure that business owners become more aware of these tools and actually just educating themselves on what the tools are. So they'll feel a lot more comfortable and confident whenever they walk up to a business and they're like, "Hey, do you guys take Bitcoin?" Like, what if the business owner is intrigued? What are they going to do? What's their next step? And I honestly, most even of the Bitcoin community is awesome, but I think a lot of them don't know the next steps. And just so bringing awareness to that would be a huge help. Let's say the businesses are now all set up and they accept Bitcoin, everything's ready to go. The next hurdle is the point of sale system. How do they integrate Bitcoin, whether it's in a hacky way or, you know, one of these days we'll have hopefully a more seamless integration with the bigger point of sale systems. But how do they get that going? And that at this moment, in my opinion, is one of the biggest hurdles um, for businesses that are eager and willing and maybe already starting to accept Bitcoin. It's that point of sale.
Absolutely. And As far as payments, like on a local level, are a lot of businesses going the on-chain route, or is Lightning pretty quick to adopt? I know with layer two and just trying to understand Bitcoin, like are people fast tracking to Lightning and it's easier and makes more sense, or is that kind of a hurdle where they're just starting with on-chain payments?
No, I mean, I just get them set up straight for Lightning. I think we're at the moment now where, you're already starting to see something too. It's like, should we even be separating like Bitcoin and Lightning, or should we just be saying like Bitcoin? Like it's Bitcoin. You want to accept Bitcoin? Well, yeah, like duh. If you want to accept Bitcoin, then you're going to be using something called Lightning. But the different wallets, whether it's a centralized sort of wallet or whether it's something like Moon, where you can just scan any invoice and it's just going to pay, on chain or Lightning. Those are pretty fantastic tools, and yeah, I get businesses set up. If I had to pick between on-chain or Lightning, I would go with Lightning every single time, because most of the businesses I'm getting set up are just selling small ticket items. It's fast casual restaurants or services where they don't have time to wait for the confirmation. That's also adds another kind of like confusing hurdle for employees. So I just go straight to Lightning.
Awesome. And if there's any small business owners in the audience maybe that are not in the know on Bitcoin, I'm sure most of you are, throw an emoji up. I would love to see if there's anyone here kind of learning about Bitcoin for the first time. In Sun Farms, we're going to be inviting some people up here at the end for some questions, so I'll leave that request pending here and we'll pull you up. But Michael, where do you see, I guess, just moving forward, where do you see payments going in terms of Bitcoin over the next year? There's obviously a lot of these altcoin scams and things happening, like the Tether's losing value apparently this week. I haven't read too much into that. The Luna and Terra blow up, rehypothecation rates going down in DeFi. Like there just seems to be all these problems. I mean, is that impacting and creating confusion for small business owners and these newly Bitcoin adopters, or like, what do you think on that? How's that impacting the market?
A lot of in terms of like the downturn in the market and that like implosion of like Terra and all that stuff, most business owners have no clue that it's even going on. I haven't really noticed any change in that whatsoever, so, which is funny. Which just goes to show, like, they're busy running their business. They're not sitting here paying attention to all this stuff like we are, because we're enamored by it, and we're in the ecosystem. They're just trying to run their business. I don't remember what the second part of the question was.
Yeah, just in general, like some of that has made like local news headlines in like Denver, and my wife's mom and dad are asking, and other people just kind of say like, what is this? How does this affect me? But that's good. Yeah, I think small business owners, they're typically working more hours than just a W-2 worker. They have a lot more on their shoulders they're having to manage, so they're probably less tuned into some of that stuff.
Yeah, for
Cool.
sure. I mean, it's really, really difficult. Even though it takes just a few minutes to get businesses set up and ready to go, even like to train their staff, it doesn't take long. Just for them to find some time to do it, because it's not exactly on the top of their list of priorities, right? And so, Saturday in Rockdale, which is home to the biggest Bitcoin mining farm in North America, to my knowledge. There's a guy named Brett. He owns Brett's Backyard Barbecue. So I'll be going there tomorrow to get him set up to accept Bitcoin, because on Saturday, they're having like a big event there, and everyone's going to be able to pay with Bitcoin. And, it's only going to take me a few minutes to get him set up, but, he's a busy guy. He's running one of the best barbecue joints in Texas. He's the soon-to-be mayor of Rockdale, Texas. And, I don't know, he's going to be the first legitimate Bitcoin mayor.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Now, so a lot of businesses, they're interested in accepting Bitcoin payments. Maybe they get it, maybe they don't. It's about 50-50. What's the response from a small business owner after they're accepting Bitcoin? Is it kind of like, one person a day, a couple people a month? Like, are they noticing anything material change, or are they just glad that they're kind of keeping up with the times and maybe they have a Bitcoin sticker on the front of their building and it creates conversation? And what is that like?
Yeah, I would say in general, a lot of them are kind of indifferent about it. I do think they like the fact that they can kind of say, yeah, like, hey, we accept Bitcoin. And if they do happen to be more into the idea of Bitcoin, then they are fairly enthusiastic about it. I've seen business owners in the past that are like, literally, like customers come up and they're like, we accept Bitcoin. And the customer's like, what? That's not what I was expecting. But yeah, it really just depends. There's a lot of indifference. I wouldn't say that, maybe they'll have like a few cups of coffee sold per week, in Bitcoin, from just the people who are aware of that this business even accepts Bitcoin, right? And that's kind of where Oshi tries to come in with the incentives and the map and everything. But yeah, I mean, businesses who are accepting Bitcoin, unless there's some sort of special event, like a Bitcoin business warming party, um, they're not accepting like heaps of Bitcoin right now. Most people are still like completely unaware that Cash App even like you can send Bitcoin payments over Cash App. Like it kind of blows my mind. Like I said, I just had a meeting with like a Texas reporter, and awesome guy. He asked really great questions, but literally had no clue about Bitcoin. Not a clue. And he's reporting on it. So this is the state that we're in right now. This is kind of the state of affairs. But I really like to talk about how small business owners, in my experience, what I have seen is they're pretty eager to like tell their customers about it, depending on the owner. So that's what's not really factored in, I think, whenever a lot of people start talking about, a consumer paying with Bitcoin. But what is that business and how are they going to train their staff? Whenever a customer comes up and wants to buy like a $3 cup of coffee and swipe their card, and that's going to cost that business 5.6% if they're using something like Square or Toast, whenever they could just use Bitcoin and save like 5%, or more, depending on what they're using. So, then you're going to have business owners actually training their staff to say, hey, if this customer comes in, like tell them we accept Bitcoin so that we can save money on these sales. Maybe we can increase our profit margins a substantial amount, or maybe we can actually give the customer back like some Bitcoin rewards or Bitcoin cash back with that arbitrage between, Lightning and the traditional legacy payment processors.
Absolutely. And before we dive into talking a little bit about Oshi and how you solve some of these problems and create the incentives that really encourage people to interact and use Bitcoin, what are you thinking about on a local level people could do if they're not aware of Oshi? Like my mind goes to, you could almost hang up a little sheet of paper and tell people, hey, you can download a Bitcoin wallet here or use, let's say, Cash App. We have a wallet. You can pay us immediately and we'll give you a 3 or 4% discount. And the business owner knows less than 1% of people are going to do it, but they're kind of creating that conversation. Like, do you see Bitcoiners who are business owners getting creative and maybe doing that if they're not leveraging Oshi, or a lot of these business owners really just kind of coming to you without getting too creative on their own, like trying to create a solution and educate?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of hand holding. Let's talk about a business that doesn't really understand much about Bitcoin and really doesn't even understand much about, let's say, like the rewards and incentives. Like maybe they signed up with Square or Toast for like this really cookie cutter like reward system. I mean, I talk to businesses all the time and I was like, hey, do you run any specials or promotions? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you have a happy hour special. He said, oh yeah, a happy hour special. I was like, how about instead of 30% back or 30% off, you give like 30% back in Bitcoin? And it like totally changes the game, right? It changes brain cells. But then there are also business owners that are like really into Bitcoin. And they're like, yo, I want your Bitcoin. Like I want KYC free sats. I am willing to give you a discount if you pay me in Bitcoin. Not only because, it's going to save me maybe a few percentage points in processing fees, but also because like, I just want it. And business owners, again, the ones that really understand this and their company is in a position in which they can hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet without having to convert, the Bitcoin they receive to dollars, which in general, considering it's a very small percentage of sales right now. Most businesses can do this. But if they hold on, say they do a 10% pay with Bitcoin discount, and they hold on to that Bitcoin over the course of years, or whether it's 6 months or a year or 2 years, whatever, do they think that the price of Bitcoin is going to appreciate, or the purchasing power of Bitcoin is going to appreciate at least 10%, right, within a year's time? If that's the case, and that 10% discount that they gave to a customer, whether it's a 10% pay with Bitcoin discount or it's a 10% sats back, that's a free discount. It's a free discount. And if we ever get into a scenario, or I would say when we get into a scenario in which more and more businesses are wanting their customers to pay with Bitcoin, whether because, maybe the dollar just continues to inflate away into oblivion, which is highly likely, then they're maybe going to have to compete amongst one another to incentivize customers to pay with Bitcoin, which could create a crazy flywheel effect, in which case, like, the business, like, hey, we'll give you like 20% off if you pay us in Bitcoin, because we know in a year's time that's free for us. So it gets pretty crazy with the game theory on that.
I love it. Yeah, I've been a small business owner in the past, and I've always found really creative ways to create language that encourage people to come in or give their eyes attention to me. And I would be doing that, saying save up to 30%, and they come in, and you have some way in which you can get them set up by using Bitcoin in less than 2 to 3 minutes, and they would be grateful for that. And then they might become a regular just for that one value that create in their life. So that's cool. Now,
Yeah, I mean, it's getting super easy too. I imagine something in the near future where these businesses might have, partners, like they have their Strike ref link, like, maybe they're selling like Azteco vouchers. Maybe they're using BitRamp. They're selling Bitcoin on the spot. So they have a way to actually load their customer's wallet with Bitcoin on Lightning Network. Maybe they have a way to refer their customers, right, to Strike, and they'll get like $10 in Bitcoin for every referral they get. And then their customer will get 10 free bucks as well, right? So, because it's all about the incentives. Without the incentives, like, a business starts accepting Bitcoin and you're not a Bitcoiner, and even if you are, maybe you're over the whole novelty of Bitcoin, or maybe you're not ideological enough to make every single transaction a Bitcoin payment, like, just because you want to support the businesses, which that's not something we can rely on now or even into the future. It's all about the incentives. So how are these businesses going to incentivize consumers to pay with Bitcoin, and where are they going to get maybe the money to incentivize them? So yeah, I find it pretty fascinating where you could have like something near the register where you say, hey, like, download this app, get set up with Bitcoin, come back next time, and we'll give you 20% off, your coffee, or we'll give you 20% sats back off your coffee. The business gets $10 through the Strike ref link. The customer gets $10, whatever the case may be. So it's pretty exciting.
heck yeah. Well, now that we're segueing, we've talked a little bit about Bitcoin, small business payments. For anyone who's not aware here, give us maybe a 2 to 3 minute elevator pitch on Oshi, what problem it solves, the incentives you've created, and then we can take a few questions from the crowd.
Yeah, so first and foremost, Oshi is a really, really easy way for businesses to plug into kind of a marketplace and rewards engine, so they can incentivize consumers to actually use their Bitcoin. We connect with a variety of different payment providers. Like, if you have a Voltage BTC Pay server, cool. Like, you can plug into us. If you use Strike, you can plug into us as a business. IBEX, OpenNode. If you're a merchant in El Salvador and you're using the Bitcoin Beach wallet, you can plug into us. So we are just really the aggregator of Bitcoin businesses and deals in your local area, and really just, well, it's localized, but you can find deals anywhere. And we then, on the consumer side, offer the ability for these businesses to give sats back or just pay with Bitcoin discounts. So the consumers actually have an incentive to pay with Bitcoin, right? And again, many businesses are already doing this, but they're doing punch cards and like coffee points and all this shit that no one really cares about. Introducing Bitcoin rewards into your business will bring you more business, more consumers, maybe customers you wouldn't have already had, and then the incentives, as this flywheel gets going, could really drive Bitcoin circular economies. Now, as a Bitcoiner, you can actually have a tool with which you can, present Bitcoin to businesses and show them like, hey, yeah, your business can be on the map on Oshi. I summon your deals on here for other customers to see. Oh, look, there's some businesses near you that accept Bitcoin, and really create like this network and platform for the businesses that the Bitcoiners can show the businesses, and again, kind of generate a little more interest. And if you were to, give that business your ref link, you'll receive 1%, basically commissions and sats of every sale that business makes through the app. And if you onboard grandma and she buys some stuff through Oshi using her Strike wallet from local businesses, then you'll receive 1% commission off of her purchases as well. So, that's kind of the idea of it. I'll pause there for a minute.
Yeah. No, I love that. I remember the first time I learned about that, how if I refer businesses, get them to join and use it, you make essentially sats flow, and like kind of like cash flow, like coming in because you are early and you help get the Oshi ecosystem going. So I love that, and I think that's really important for like the younger demographic. I've noticed nowadays. Like I've been really looking at like where the interest lies in the young entrepreneur and like where the attention's going, and a lot of young people nowadays really want to create cash flow and like find ways to, like there's a side hustle culture that people are just obsessed with. And I think there's more creative ways where you can connect one relationship, bring someone to Bitcoin and earn that way. And in my mind, that's like a really healthy, positive thing for not only yourself, but just for the community at large.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also provides quite a bit of education for people to about maybe even like how Bitcoin works. Like you can use any wallet you want to pay. You can use any Lightning service provider you want to receive. And I think this is kind of a glimpse into, what a lot of these different apps are going to look like, that are sitting atop kind of the Bitcoin stack. You don't have to be the payment provider and the like application. Like you can just run on top of it. Like you don't have to be the Lightning service provider, and the marketplace. I think creating apps that are open to everyone creates a really nice network effect, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. Well, we can segue a little bit here. I know we had a hand raised. I'm going to bring up sunfarms.btc, and we can just start running through some questions or comments. Sunfarm, did you have one you wanted to ask or anything you wanted to share? You're on mute right now. I've been in that position before where my phone's in my pocket and I'm scrambling to get it out maybe. But Nate, were you going to share something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got so many thoughts because Mike knows that I love this stuff. But no, Mike, I guess I want to ask kind of from the other direction, how do you think that we can get more Bitcoiners wanting to spend their Bitcoin? What do you think is a hang up for some Bitcoiners, and where do you think the trajectory is going as far as that goes?
Yeah, again, I think it's just all about the incentives, but it doesn't necessarily have to be financial incentives. Let's do like a real quick like history lesson here, a very general lesson. For thousands of years, like payments were generally peer-to-peer, using like cash-like stuff, right? So coins, shiny rocks, seashells, whatever. There was no, intermediaries necessarily. There were no payment processing fees. Settlement was final, it was instant. It's really over the past like 50 years, it's kind of an anomaly in which we've inserted these payment processors, and increasingly so, especially, the rise of the internet, where they now get a cut out of every single transaction, because at the time they were the only ones that were able to facilitate these digital payments effectively. And if you wanted to participate in online commerce, then you generally had to have one of these cards, right? And even in 2010, it was just 5% of like total retail commerce. It was just 5% was done online in 2010, right? So very, very little usage, right? And so, I'm sorry, that was, 5% of retail commerce. So where that gets interesting is like, what did they do to incentivize everybody to change their behavior, to use their cards everywhere? Because like 5% wasn't enough. They needed people to use it for, in-store commerce too, like not just online, right? And they did this through incentives. They did this through, the experience was improving over time, right? It's no longer a carbon copy, pain in the ass thing to accept a card. They made it easier and easier and better, and that drove more adoption naturally. But additionally, they incentivized everybody with the rewards and the cash back and all of this stuff to use the card. But really, it was just kind of like reappropriation of their excessive economic rents that they charged. Like basically what they would do is they would charge the business like 2, 3, 4%, and that business would then pass those costs down to the consumer. And then that consumer would tap their card or swipe their card because they felt like they were getting like 2% rewards, when in reality, like these card issuers and payment processors are effectively like giving you $1 and taking $2 out of your pocket. And like everybody fell for it, and people started using these things. People started like, enslaving themselves by these things. They would get like 10 cards, and maybe they'd pay it off every month, but there was like the card churning to get all the miles and all the points and all this stuff. And everybody was using their cards for every single purchase, right? And what happened over time, like that changed brain cells. That changed behavior. Now people are using these cards everywhere they go, not just online, everywhere they go, because the experience is good and they feel like they're getting good rewards. But what's happening now is, the experience is kind of more or less kind of like topped out, let's say, and the rewards are getting less, and the payment processing fees for the businesses are getting higher, and the fraud costs are getting higher. And what Bitcoin does, right, is you can cut out these middlemen, because we have a mechanism to do this now, right, especially given the Lightning Network. So, for the first time ever, you can send a digital payment peer-to-peer in like a cash-like way, right? And so I just really think we need to replicate like the same model that these credit cards use to change everybody's behavior to start using them. And we do it through the experience is constantly improving, right? And the rewards are obviously a big deal right now. So how do we convey this to everyone, right? And I really think it starts, you got to get the businesses on board first. And then you have to build really awesome experiences that consumers actually want to use and that they get rewards for, except these rewards don't have to be subsidized by payment processors. Like the businesses themselves can give rewards back. So very long-winded answer, but that's where I think we're going here.
Makes sense to me, man. I appreciate that.
All right, Neo, welcome up, man. See you raised your hand. What question you got? Mio, are you there?
And Twitter might just be like terrible today. Or Spaces.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Well, I'm thinking as a small business owner, I would be creating some fun giveaways, like kind of making buying into the consumer culture. But you know how there's ice cream shops that say if you eat this much ice cream or you finish this 3,000 calorie burger, you win this reward. I would be giving away free Bitcoin. Get people to come in and say, hey, if you pay with Bitcoin and eat this food or whatever, we'll give you this reward in Bitcoin. Like that would be some good, unique marketing material. That'd be fun for restaurants.
Yeah, it was my mic. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yeah, you're coming through,
Okay,
Neo.
good.
Hey.
Yeah, I learned about this Oshi app through a vendor called Texas Lim. They sell steaks in Texas. So I came across the website, and since I have a marketing agency, and we have a lot of websites, in Shopify and different platforms, I always wanted to integrate Bitcoin payments. So I've seen like Strike, they did something, and obviously you have also the BTC Pay. But to be honest with you, I've had issues trying to integrate it. So when I came across Oshi app, I felt like, I visited the website, I see open node, and you have different options. So I'm starting to learn. One question I have is because what happens if you have an e-commerce site and you have subscription base? So basically, the customer subscribes to one service and gets charged every month, right? So when you use a credit card, you just do it once. You say, I pre-approve a monthly payment of $10, right, every month, and then they submit the card once, and then every month they get charged. Is that possible, a subscription with Bitcoin? I mean, or do you have to actually, that's the limitation, that you have to actually run the payment every time? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it's possible, but it's not like the UX isn't particularly great at the moment. Like my understanding, like you could do things like that with LNURL or possibly like Bolt 12. But it's definitely not the same because you're right. Like, Bitcoin payments are push payments, not pull.
Yeah, one time.
One
time, right? Yeah, push payment.
Yeah. So that's right. But my understanding is there's things coming out that will help with that. Yeah, I mean, it would have to be more at the current moment whenever we think about this. And I think other people probably know about this too in the room a lot more than I do. But I look at it like, is it the end of the world to have to like send out an invoice monthly that they can just like scan and pay to like renew their service or renew their subscription? I mean, I know one of the awesome things about subscription services are when like people just forget about it and they just keep paying, which, I mean, is that the way it should be? That's what I wonder sometimes. It's like, again, I view this period in time right now where, you can just put in a card and it'll just like pull payments from you, whether you want it to or not. I kind of still view that as a bit of an anomaly. But to answer your question, like that stuff is definitely in the works. It's already there's already some capabilities to do it now, but it's not quite up to snuff until I'm like wanting to implement it quite yet. But I don't know if other people have some comments on that.
Guess no one has comments.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
I just gotta say that from a vendor, I understand that. For a vendor's perspective, if you have products and they're one time and you do the push, that's fine. But if you have services that are subscription based, for the vendor perspective, is much easier because they already pay once and every month they get charged. You don't have to do any follow up. Sometimes happens that they change the credit card, or something happens, and it's very annoying going through the process of contacting the customer, get a new card. I mean, it's just like if you can avoid that, and that's the beauty with this automation, right? So I'm wondering, like, I know this is too early, but whenever we get that user experience on Bitcoin, I think that's going to be huge for the payment industry.
yeah, and there's something called Albi, and you can basically set it up to where like if you go to a website, you can set, like my understanding, like set thresholds where if you go to the website, it'll just like automatically like withdraw from like your wallet balance. under like certain parameters. So it will effectively pull payments in a way, right? And there are ways. Basically, this is where I was coming at. Like, there are ways to do this now with subscriptions, but you kind of have to like load up a balance and give it permissions to pull from. So, one of the applications of this that I spend a lot of time thinking about is the tipping mechanisms, at like restaurants and stuff with Bitcoin. Because think about this: like, you go in and you pay, and you scan an invoice, and then it's like, oh, do you want to tip? And then maybe you'd have to do another another invoice. I mean, you could bundle it all into one invoice, but then it's like, well, okay, like, how does the vendor separate that? And this is where like the whole point of sale and the tools that are just not fully there yet, but are being built, come into play. But let's say you wanted to tip later, like you get in an Uber and you take the ride, and then the next time you open up the Uber app, it's like, hey, how much do you want to tip? That would be a scenario where, like, with Lightning, again, like, do you really want to, pay another invoice, or would you just rather hit like $1 and have it pull from like an allocated amount of funds using like LNURL withdrawal or something like that? So it's definitely being worked on. It's just, it is a big deal. I definitely feel your pain there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you were saying, like, so you have Shopify stores and stuff. I mean, like, they have, OpenNode, BTC Pay. There's all sorts of different integrations where you can add like a little Pay with Bitcoin button on there. And
Yeah.
Like at checkout. Is that what you've been having issues with, or?
Yeah, I tried the BTC Pay. I got it through a node, Umbrel node, and I got the app there. But the thing is, they changed the system. You needed to have like an example URL. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it looks like Shopify changed the system, and it took a while from BTC Pay to update on their end. So it was kind of two different systems, and it wasn't working. Finally, I got it to work where it was integrated, but I kind of like tried and it didn't work, and so I just left it there, with the Shopify payment. And then I heard about striking the Bitcoin conference. Integration with Shopify did that too, but I didn't get it to work either. I mean, it looks like it's well integrated, but I made some test payments and it didn't work. So it has only one review of the app. So it looks like it's still launching that. So I don't know. Oshi, it looks like you have, I've heard about OpenNode. There's a lot of good use cases with OpenNode, even some banks that are going to be announced by them next week, right? Like some processors. So I'm interested maybe in exploring OpenNode. Do you partner with OpenNode in Oshi?
We basically just built out a bunch of different custom integrations for all these different service providers. So if you like have an account with OpenNode, then you would just give us an invoice API key so that whenever a customer wanted to purchase something from you through the Oshi app and earn like rewards or have it pay with Bitcoin discount, you would basically receive that Bitcoin into your own OpenNode account. But whenever it comes to like the whole Shopify thing and these integrations, I mean, we're definitely a bit in the Wild West of Bitcoin and trailblazing. I mean, we've been working on Oshi, in some capacity, whether it be ideation or actually building it out for like a few years. And so like we've seen so many different companies that we started integrating with like come and go. So it's definitely a Wild West. But the way we handle some of those things is, a lot of these e-commerce shops have different ways in which you can like create promo codes and discount codes and so on. So like a customer could purchase something from your store, right? And you could give Oshi like a single time use promotion code so that whenever the customer purchases this, they'll get the code. They can just tap a button, go to your website and just order it and just apply that code in the checkout. But the cool thing is like you got a new customer to go to your website to, go through the checkout process. And maybe you're going to ship them something. So, you have that information that you need for that. And, Oshi just helped bring you a new customer. and they gave them, just a code without having to do maybe a more difficult integration with some of these, providers.
Okay. I'm going to explore a little bit more. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And actually, Texas Slim is like, he's here. I was right next to him. Yeah. I think he just went. He just left.
Still waiting for the first order. Why it's taking so long? They don't have a tracking code. I was waiting for a tracking on my email. I haven't seen it.
Gotcha. Oh, so you ordered a box. You ordered some beef.
I ordered the box. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I know. We're kind of helping them out with some of that stuff too. So that's one of the things. You've gotten like all the tracking info and stuff yet, or not yet?
No. I just got the order, the invoice, but I didn't receive any, tracking info. So I have no idea where the box is. The box is.
Got it. Yeah. But we're working with them on that. They're selling a lot of boxes, so it's pretty awesome.
Okay, great. Yeah. I know that's something that is great. I've heard him talking in some spaces, and I like the way he's put together health and Bitcoin. In the podcast, I listened to some of the podcasts, brought some MDs, some doctors talking about health and nutrition. So I like it. So I want to give it a try, and so yeah, I'm very excited to get my first box soon, and we'll see.
Yeah, so that's funny you say that. This is where some of the subscription stuff comes into play. So trust me, we're going to try to find a way to do this. Like I said, it's really, as the space matures, like the trade-off will lessen, it'll level out a little bit. Like the experience of having, auto renewals for the average, consumer might not be very good. So we'll try to figure that out.
Great, thank you.
All right. Sun Farms requested up earlier. Did you have a question you still wanted to ask? If not, anyone else, feel free to raise your hand. We'll probably wrap up here just in the next couple of minutes. But Michael, man, we appreciate you making time to chat. I know there's a lot going on in Austin today. Nate's down there too, but hope you guys have a blast tonight and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure. I would just leave everyone with ask businesses if they accept Bitcoin. Just ask, but just make sure that if they say no and they want to learn more, just make sure you're prepared. There's some great documents out there now. I think one of them is called, it's called Bitcoin. It's bitcoinforlocalbusiness.com. It's a great little pamphlet that kind of explains what Bitcoin is, what Lightning Network is, in a really clear and concise way. If you're at a farmer's market, it's great. It shows them how to use Moon Wallet. Moon Wallet's fantastic for, let's say, businesses where if the owner is there, the business is open. If the owner's not there, it's not open. So you can afford to just show them Moon Wallet. But if they need more of they're running more of a restaurant with employees, or they're not always going to be there, and something I really recommend Ibex. Ibex is fantastic. And of course, if they're looking to be more self-sovereign, but they don't want to run the hardware themselves, they don't want to manage that, then Voltage and BTC Pay Server is also a great option. I know she works with all of those options. So get out there and start talking to businesses. Ask them the question, but just be ready to provide them with a good answer if they ask how they do it.
Awesome. Well, we got one question. Let me bring up our weird robot here. Let him. What's up, robot?
Hey, Oshi, I actually just had a question. You're talking about trying to get people to onboard, and a lot of the businesses you've talked about so far, it's, hey, a lot of the sell is you can save on, transaction fees and things like that instead of using a credit card. What about businesses that traditionally, at least in my experience, are cash only? Specifically, some bars, barbershops, tattoo parlors. A lot of them, they don't even take credit or debit or any of that. They only take cash. Is there a specific way that you try to tackle speaking to those sorts of people about, okay, cool, yeah, I know you usually take cash, but here's the incentive to start using your phone, through the Oshi app or anything like that, and start holding Bitcoin instead?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it all depends on why are they accepting cash only? Like, because some people do it because they're old school, but some people maybe have another reason. Like maybe some people are like, yeah, because I don't want to pay taxes on this shit. Like, I don't know, they look at it as like under the table thing. Or they look at it as like, yo, if we don't take cash, like we're going to get chargebacks. Like maybe they've had issues with payment providers before because maybe their business has been deemed like high risk. It all depends on what their reasons for doing it is. Like, let's say something like a smoke shop or a dispensary. Like those are cash only businesses. Maybe there's some things that have changed since I last looked into it, but generally they're cash only businesses. The banks won't really service them, or the payment processors won't do it. Like they're deemed high risk or whatever. So a business like that, I would approach them and not at the angle of, hey, low payment processing fees, blah, 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 because their payment processing fee is like, it's effectively zero, right? But let's say you're a business and majority of your customers want to pay using some form of like digital payment, like they want to just tap their card or whatever, but they can't. So now they're having to go out of their way to make sure that they have cash, or maybe they're going to go use your ATM, and by using your ATM, you're going to like gouge them on ATM fees because, you got to take a cut to put that thing there. So now it's like you're reducing the experience for your customer, right? But on the other hand, it's like, hey, so if you only take cash, that means you have absolutely no online presence, right? Like you have no way to accept digital payments like online. You have no way to reach consumers and like tap into consumer volition. And speaking of like dispensaries specifically, they can't sell stuff online. Or if they do, what they have to do is they can there's these delivery services where it's still cash only, but you can place an order and then the customer will pay the driver in cash whenever they get there. But now you have this delivery driver holding a bunch of cash, and it's not particularly good. So, I can go to these businesses and I can say, hey, Bitcoin doesn't care if you're if under the government rule, banks aren't allowed to do business with you. You can now do business in Bitcoin, and you can open yourself up to, e-commerce, I call it B-commerce. And it's, still depending on how you do it and depending on your scale, right? I mean, there's always the caveat there, but it can be near free to process these transactions. So it's similar to cash, but so what? Maybe you're going to pay 1% more than you normally do because your normal costs are zero. How much are you going to improve the experience of your customers? How much are you going to be able to market and promote your businesses to customers in ways you've literally never been able to do? So it's like, what are their reasons? I talked to a dog washing place before, and they only took cash, and it was just because they were old school, and they basically thought it was no business of the government to know how much they were making, which I agree. But they were an incredibly difficult sell on Bitcoin. I never did actually get them to accept it because they wanted that physical thing. So yeah, it's a great question. Long answer. It just depends on why they're cash only.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, Michael. Well, thank you again, man. We appreciate you joining us and everyone here. We're trying to do this once a week, usually on Wednesdays. We always will make exceptions, especially for guests like Michael. We ran it on Thursday this week, but tune in, stay posted, and we'll do this again here soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.